Hey there, everyone. I'm Fox News meteorologist Jennifer Lambers.
And I'm Nicholas Herboso.
And we are talking about the forecast out there for today. You've probably been tuned in with us all day so far, and we've been talking about the potential for some of those showers and thunderstorms. And Nicholas, we're taking a look across the southeast, and really the most active portion of this is going to be moving closer towards Dothan and Enterprise.
Yeah, it's a big complex of storms. Actually, when I came in, I was a little surprised to see how big the complex of storms was. It's tracked through Mississippi. We've had this set up for the past few days where we have some kind of boundary or something setting up here, and a complex of storms moves along that boundary, and we have just been to the south of it all. So some places in our northern areas have gotten some storms. We had a severe thunderstorm warning earlier for Covington County thanks to those storms that were over there, but otherwise we're doing pretty fine right now in terms of not a lot of coverage. It's just really hot outside.
That's exactly right. We are dealing with heat, we're dealing with the humidity, we're dealing with some of the storms. And so going ahead and taking just a wider view of what that's looking like, that way you can just help get a better idea of what some of these storms are looking like. We're going to mainly move from the west towards the east. And so Mobile County, just closer towards Sims, Big Creek Lake, you're starting to see some of these showers, especially as they're beginning to push over Snow Road and then right near Howells Ferry Road. Not quite picking up on any of that thunder and lightning in any of these, but in case you are in Magnolia Grove, closer towards Ziegler Boulevard, then you'll most likely start to see some of these showers begin to push closer towards you. If you step outside, you can most likely start to see some of those big, tall clouds in the distance. And then as we push just a little bit further towards the east, a little bit of a different look, especially once we get closer towards Escambia County, Alabama, and then also Conecuh County too, Nicholas.
Yeah, so we have one strong thunderstorm just north of Highway 29 there. It's one of these things, things about the storms today, they will all have heavy downpours. That's been a consistent thing for the past few days. Heavy downpours and plenty of lightning. So north of Highway 29 there in kind of northeastern Escambia County, lightning with that storm, very heavy downpour, of course. And then switching down, this is along I-10 here near Crestview there. And this is the thing, smaller showers, but very heavy downpours. So like if we're driving on I-10 or are about to drive on I-10 near Crestview, you can see that you might have the potential of seeing very heavy downpours. They'll slow you down for a second. That's kind of the thing that we're going to be dealing with for the rest of the day today. Same thing here in Mobile County, just a couple downpours west Mobile near Big Creek Lake. Bayou, Battery, Grand Bay, just south of I-10 and 90 there, just a little bit of a shower. Most of what you're seeing, the bright green over there kind of near in the upper part of your screen is actually ground clutter. So the rest of this just very light rain showers, but like you mentioned, Jennifer, some big clouds out there that are probably seeing blowing up right now.
And that is going to be the good news, because also this morning we were talking about the potential for some of those strong to severe storms, and some of this has really begun to back off. So that's really going to be the good news in case you are going out, is that we've had that slight risk zone in place. It was that 2 out of 5. We're still monitoring the potential for some of these storms to be strong to severe. Luckily, it's looking less likely at this point, but even then, the biggest concerns that we had were the heavy downpours, the frequent lightning, some gusty winds within some of those. So even with some of these isolated storms that we're still seeing some of those heavy downpours at this time.
And thinking back to the past few days, the days where we've had like even just kind of off, like very close to a level 1 marginal risk or something, like level 1 risk, low end stuff, we've seen tree damage, we've seen plenty of lightning strike, wind damage and all that. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, or a lot of potential for these storms to have impacts, to have gusty winds, but it may not be fully severe. So here's Futurecast, and yeah,
I think I was going to go back. Yep. There we go. We'll go to Futurecast. Yeah, graphics. It's a Tuesday, you can tell. But as you do take a look at the Futurecast, things change just slightly in comparison to this morning. It is leaning back on more of the rain chances heading later on into today. And so we get closer towards 4 o'clock. I'll even take it wide for you guys to be able to view some of that. And it's pretty quiet. By the time we get further towards 4, 5 isolated rain showers, Mobile, Baldwin counties, a lot of that activity really pushing out of Okaloosa County, Florida. And then we make our way closer towards 5 o'clock. Some of that still continuing, again, isolated showers. And then we turn real quiet heading into the overnight hours. It wants to bring in some of that rain potential for our inland spots. But even then, I'm not too convinced of that taking place heading into the overnight hours.
Yeah, in fact, actually, if we could rock this back to the top of Futurecast, I want to see and I'm just kind of like looking at this kind of on the spot here. So the very start, kind of where it initializes, if you will, kind of what the reading is as of. So currently, right now, we're sitting at, what time is it? It is 3:23. This is what it says it looks like at 3. And comparing that to the actual radar picture, it is missing out on some things.
It's showing rain in Clark County.
Yeah, but one thing that it is doing is showing like the southern Mobile County rain, kind of the isolated nature of the storms. So we expect that to kind of continue for the next few hours, at least as we can clearly see by Futurecast. Over the next few hours, we're keeping the storms very, very isolated. It doesn't have the complex of storms up here. Really, it didn't. It isn't resolving that very well. But what it is doing well is picking up on the smaller, like individual cells, and all of those cells have the potential to produce gusty winds, like we mentioned, plenty of lightning, of course.
Yeah, so I'll jump back. If you take a look at the Futurecast and what that's showing, and then we go to what current radar looks like, you're right about what it's showing closer towards the Dothan, Enterprise, Auburn area, is that it's really beginning to pull back on some of that.
Yeah,
just take a look at all of that lightning really beginning to light up the skies. Even it looks like light rain just because it's pushing away from our radar site, but it is still some heavy showers just closer towards that area, but loud active storms beginning to push through. Also, I do just give a reminder that in case you guys are joining us on Facebook Live, we are monitoring the comments. So in case you guys have any questions for us, just shoot them our way. That way we can go ahead and answer them. But also say hey to anyone also out there that may be watching us so far for this afternoon. We'd love to have this capability back. But in addition to the potential for some of these rain showers and these thunderstorms, there's something else that we're talking about.
Some big heat.
Big heat, yeah.
We've been dealing with the big heat for a while.
We have, and we just keep switching back and forth between the heat advisories and the excessive heat warnings. And really the biggest criteria comes from at what temperature are we going to be forecasting for the feels like temperatures. And again, this is the National Weather Service that decides. Heat advisory has been in effect so far for this afternoon, and that was heat indice values getting up to 113 degrees in some areas. It's toasty out there.
Yeah, there have been people that have had to like cancel outside events. I know at least some schools that I've been keeping tabs with, like we canceled some outside events because it was just plain too hot. And right now, I mean, this actually doesn't look that bad, but we have cloud cover around.
That's exactly right. We have cloud cover. We still have this area of low pressure that's still pushing through to our inland areas at this time, so it is bringing in a little bit of that cooler air. High pressure over Tennessee is what's really beginning to push that down, make it come through pretty quickly. But if you look closer towards the coast, we're still seeing mid to upper 90s. This is going to be air temperature, but taking a look at the heat index values, that's where you really begin to get into the triple digits. We are feeling like 110 in Gulf Shores, feeling like 112 in Destin, and then downtown Mobile Regional feeling like 103. And so that's really going to vary. Our inland spots feeling a little bit better, mainly just due to some of that cloud cover and also the system pushing through.
Yeah, and this may be one of those days where the beach weather is just too hot. And I mean, we're at 3 p.m., so most people who go to the beach in the morning probably wrapping their beach day up. But I mean, you see 110, 112 along the coast there. It's just a lot going on there. So 110 in Gulf Shores, 107 in Pensacola, 112 in Destin for our heat index. There's a lot going on there. What about Fairhope? You're at 102 right now for your heat index, so not doing the best there. Downtown, 103. Mobile, also 103. That's at Mobile Regional Airport, the difference there. 103 coming from Mobile Regional Airport, and then the downtown airport, Brookley Field, also measuring 103 for that heat index. And that's just factoring in the relative humidity to that temperature, and then you're getting that feels like temperature. And thankfully, over the next 10 hours, though, we're going to see that the heat index values do go down, but only to the 90s.
Yep. It's going to still be feeling toasty heading into the overnight hours. And then you had mentioned the beaches. We're going to talk about those just real quick. Is that the rip current risk today it was low, so it was looking pretty out there. Tomorrow the same thing, but then heading into Thursday, that's going to be at that moderate level, and only expecting that to continue heading into the weekend. So as always, know what beach you're located on in case you're going to be making weekend plans heading down there. Again, know what beach you're located on and know where the closest lifeguard stand is. And then here's some good news between talking about the storms and talking about the heat. The tropics, they're quiet right now, and they are expected to stay that way for the next 7 days. This is something that we like to see here on the Gulf Coast, especially as we begin to enter into more of our active months. Typically that begins around August. We typically start to see more of those storms beginning to form. The peak comes in mid-September, but it's nice. I am behind that one. I can deal with the heat. I can deal with the humidity. Just keep all the storms away from us, and I call that a win so far for the season.
Yeah, I've been kind of I did this yesterday. I kind of looked back at previous hurricane seasons, thinking like, okay, so and if you have seen some of the seasonal forecasts, just kind of getting into the weeds a little bit, they have been interesting for sure. They're a little more active, and yet we had not seen anything. But we are only at the beginning of August, and we have a long, long way to go in hurricane season. So there have been plenty of seasons that have been backloaded, if you will. So there's the potential for that here.
I was going to say, I just talked about yesterday, if you join us on our next weather segments that air Monday through Friday at 6 p.m., you can catch that on our digital sites, on our website as well, or if you have any of those nice apps like Roku. But I was talking about Colorado State University, and they update the first Thursday of every month. And so far, here's an average season, 14 named storms, 7 hurricanes, 3 of those being major. And their original forecast before the season started for all of 2023 was to be slightly below. 13 named storms, 6 of those being hurricanes, with 2 of those being major. And then they revised it. And instead, the number at the bottom's wrong. It's 114 days left. But instead, they revised it to make it be a little bit above average. And so they're calling for 18 named storms, 9 hurricanes, with 4 of those being major. And so far for the season, we've only seen 4 named storms, and 1 of those also was in January and it wasn't named. And so it takes all those into account. So they're still saying, hey, there could be 13 more. And again, this is just Colorado State University's forecast, but this is something to pay attention to.
And this is interesting because they revised the forecast because they do it multiple times. And Colorado State is very, very good about looking back at the forecast, being very strict kind of scientifically on what they're doing. They're really, it's a really intense forecast that they do. They put out this number, I can't remember what month they upped it to 18.
Last month, July.
Yes, and then they, in the latest revision, they kept it at. Now, there's another agency, the UK Met, that had, I think, 19. And so that there are some higher numbered forecasts, but it's just seasonal forecasts. There's not too much that you can gather from this other than it's hurricane season. You know, that's what we expect. The biggest thing, though, is always just have a plan. Have a plan in place always. And, of course, then you'll be in a better spot to be good for hurricane season. I do want to have a note real quick about rip currents. I think we might have bumped our rip current risk.
Okay, so tomorrow?
As of this morning, kind of mid-morning. It looks like based on, what did it say, lifeguards along some of the Alabama beaches, observing moderate rip currents. So they have bumped that rip current risk up to moderate.
Please be careful if you're at the beaches.
And that was shared not too long ago, actually, pretty recently. So
perfect.
Sometimes you just got to change that forecast because same thing with beach flags. It's a case-by-case basis on what the lifeguards see. So
keep that in mind. Also, I want to go ahead and mention some of our viewers. Thank you, Janice and Diana. Susan, you asked about the tropics. Things are quiet. We're recapping some of what's expected for the season, but no new development expected during the next 7 days. And then also, Sis Wood asked about any of the storms that are coming later on. Again, we had run through the futurecast. Things are mostly quiet, still some isolated showers, but that trend will continue heading into today. Expecting a very isolated look by the time we make it later on into the rest of this afternoon and this evening, with a lot of that turning quiet by 6 o'clock. So any late night evening plans, it's looking a lot better. Yeah,
I'm actually kind of impressed. You've seen this thunderstorm that's gone from our Mississippi counties into Mobile County, just kind of now east of Big Creek Lake. That thing is weakening. And I feel like we've kind of noticed a little bit of a weakening trend in a lot of the storms right now. This is just a heavy downpour. This is Schillinger and 98 there. So, just a little heavy downpour there in far west Mobile, kind of central Mobile County there.
A good sight to see so far for this Tuesday. I'd like to go ahead and thank you guys for joining us. Again, we typically live stream this on the Fox 10 News app, on our YouTube, and then also on Facebook Live in case you guys were able to join us there. We hope to do more of these in the future. But again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for joining us.